Hey, good morning, guys. We're a little bit behind time, but it's okay. This is a short presentation. So my name is Jabari George. I am one of the co-leads for the Door 8 Exchanger project for OCP. The other co-lead is here, and Catherine from Rital. So this presentation is just meant to cover some of the updates to the requirements document, revision 2. So just off the bat, to burst your bubble, there are no alterations to the actual dimensions of the ORV3 rear door heat exchanger spec. So you don't have to do any redesigns, no finite element analysis, nothing fun like that. Okay, just just straightforward updates to some outdated references that we'd have had in the original document. So, by the way, the original document was written in 2020 with Appendix A added in 2021. So a lot of developments have taken place over the last 4 years that we had to capture. So that's why we are doing this revision. So in terms of the first update in the physical interfaces connections section of the document, so it still is 1 to 1.5 IDPSP for the supply and return to the door itself, but we added references for the new universal quick disconnects for OCP. So those are 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, up to a 1/2 inch sizes. And you would see some components that have been contributed to the marketplace as well for those, right? But they weren't listed in there originally, so we added them. And we also added a statement that they are proprietary tripless connections for the larger sizes, meaning those 1.5 to 1 inch, because they're uncovered under the UQD, Universal Quick Disconnects, but you can ask companies like CPC, Danfoss, etc., for those dripless 1 to 1.5 inch connections, or large bore. In terms of the DC environment, the data center environment, right, we added a reference to ASHRAE H1, the high density IT equipment classification, and we also added, or updated rather, the W classes reference. So as you know, originally they were W1, W2, etc., and now they're more descriptive with the W17 up to W45, or W plus rather. So we made sure that those were added to be clear and just consistent among the other OCP documents. On the water side of the DC environment, we updated the references for the new codes and standards, so ASME, IAC, and UL, for leak testing of the piping. And that was because in some instances it was a 1.5 times the design pressure that was required, but in others you could go up to actually 3x or 3 times the design pressure, or the burst pressure rather. And it was important that that be identified because of the region that you may be designing your door heat exchanger for. You needed to be aware of that. We wanted to make sure that the spec reflected that. Also, we just noted that if for your design there's a low and high pressure side, they can't be tested separately. You don't have to do them as a loop. So that was just an FYI. Okay, in terms of the water quality and the wetted materials, so ASHRAE, it has recommendations for the FWS and TCS water qualities, and those have been provided in terms of the references. But it should be noted that the wetted materials would usually be recommended by the manufacturer supplier. That is a pretty consistent expectation that we'd have seen across the documents. So in terms of the typical wetted materials, they're listed in the ASHRAE white paper that's listed there for water-cooled servers, the common designs, components, and processes. And then OCP put out 2 white papers under the cold plate group that covered the water quality and wetted materials for propylene glycol and treated water. So just to be aware that we added those references so that people who are looking at the door heat exchanger spec are aware. By the way, that's for single phase for the cold plate, right? Of course, PG25. In terms of water quality and wetted materials, under filtration, that section of the radar heat exchanger requirements document, we recently put out a white paper on aluminum microchannels. So we wanted to reflect some of the nuances and expectations of or requirements for a loop that is going to contain that kind of heat exchanger. So we added that reference, and we didn't put in the 0.2 to 0.4, but we added a reference to the white paper that details those kind of dimensions that would be required for a microchannel heat exchanger. So that was just to be consistent with the other documents that the group itself has been producing for radar heat exchangers. In terms of the performance metrology, this is pretty straightforward. Well, it really came out of a discussion when we were going through the paper if for heat reuse applications we should add this metric. The reality is you're going to need it anyway, so it's kind of a moot point, but we just put it in there. But once again, originally it wasn't there because it was more about the delivery temperature and the delta T, the air side and liquid side delta T's, and on the CDU side, the approach temperature. But if there is some heat reuse application you're looking at, perhaps in this for using a radar heat exchanger implementation, we put it in there. And like I said, it was really just to cover that side of things. But it's going to be inevitable if you're looking at that particular use case for radar heat exchangers. And finally, in 2021, we added the Appendix A. And at the time, we had not actually put in any details about the manifold. So there was a bit of a fuzzy, a gray area, I would say, in terms of how the manifold would interact when you consider the inclusion of RPUs and the connections, the hose connections, the inlet and outlet of the door, and all that. So what we did originally was we left a space for the OCP manifold, and now those details have been provided. So we just added a reference to that OCP manifold requirements document, so that when you're designing or when you're looking to include this new OCP manifold in your rack, that you know where to go find the details on that information. So that was it, really, to square that circle, to make sure that was referenced properly. Meaning we didn't update the drawings. We just directed you to that OCP document. So that was it. If you wanted to join the community calls, here are the details. You can take a photo of the QR codes. We are bi-weekly, Thursdays, 9 a.m. PST. And our wiki and mailing list are listed there. Now, we continue to have updates across within the OCP environment, and even outside with ASHRAE, you're seeing things like the TCS classes coming in. We may need to do updates for that. That's why it's been a little bit slow, because we've been getting warning signs about a couple of things. But we'll push this out in terms of actually revising the document and pushing it out for approval to the CE leadership pretty soon. But we're keeping our eye on the cross-references and other developments in OCP literature. Okay? Any questions? Okay. That's it from me.